Thanks once again for dropping by the channel. If you like the content, if you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe, share the video if you felt it was useful, if you enjoyed it, if you got something out of it. Have an Instagram page as well. Go see it down there. You can give it a follow if you want. Now let's get into this. So I put a post up on the community tab on my YouTube channel, and I basically said, look, I'm going to carry on doing my Fighters with a Problem series, but I want to let the fans pick who they want to go for next, you know. So close margins, you know, between Callum Smith and AJ. Fans picked AJ, so that's what I'm going to do. Now, I'm not going to do that in this video. It's going to go out on Saturday, okay? So I'm going to record it probably tomorrow, because I've got a couple of videos lined up for Friday. So I'm going to record it tomorrow and probably upload it on Saturday, so expect that. But a fighter who's gone beyond having a problem, because someone asked me to do a video on this, and I already did a couple of weeks ago about Frank Warren having a big problem. It's a massive problem now. That's why the title of the video was Massive Problem, because it was a big problem a couple of weeks ago we had. But boy, has that escalated. That's a massive problem now that old Frankie boy has. Frank Warren, as a promoter, has built some good fighters, has worked with some great fighters, has worked with guys like Prince Naseem. He's worked with Steve Collins, Nigel Benn, Eubank Jr. You know, he's put on shows like, you know, Ben McClellan. Put on shows like Collins and, yeah, was it Collins and Ben? I don't think he put on any of the Eubank and Ben or Eubank and Collins fights. But he's put on some great fights. You know, Ricky Hatton he's promoted. You know, Joe Calzaghe he's promoted. He's promoted these, you know, who's who of, you know, British boxing. So Frank Warren's done a great job, you know, through the 90s to the early 2000s. But lately, over the last few years, Queensberry has been taking a hit. You know, there's no secret about that. Like, look at the Box Nation days. The quality of some of them shows was horrible. You know, really, really was horrible. And towards the end of 2016, you kind of saw a breakthrough for Queensberry, because you saw them do this deal with BT Sport. They kind of moved away from Box Nation. Box Nation started to kind of work more with MTK. Now I think it's a separate, you know, brand that work with the Premier Sport. I think Frank Warren's still a shareholder in Box Nation as far as I believe, but we don't see BT Sport Box Nation anymore. It's all BT Sport. And the early days of BT Sport, we saw plenty of new fighters join. You know, we had a good stable of fighters. You know, we saw like Liam Williams fight Liam Smith. We saw Josh Warrington make his debut. I know he's not a big name, but we saw Tommy Langford, you know, do a bill up in Leicester. You know, we seen some good cards. Like, they weren't, you know, amazing cards, but there was definitely signs that the quality of the product that Frank Warren was giving to his fans was improving. We saw signings like Carl Frampton. You know, obviously I said Billy Joe. He had his fights on, you know, BT Sport. You know, when he fought Willie Monroe, when he fought David Lemieux, although it was in Canada, it was still BT Sport, you know. So we seen his stable grow. When I said he added Carl Frampton to his stable of fighters, signed Daniel Dubois, Anthony Yarde, got Joe Joyce in there, and obviously, of course, Tyson Fury. Okay, so from the outside looking in, at least as far back as 2018, everything seemed to be going, you know, quite well for BT Sport. They weren't, you know, making inroads with the way like someone like an Eddie Hearn was doing, because, you know, he had the biggest cash cow in heavyweight boxing. You know, he also had, you know, some fighters who were, you know, knocking around a bit like Dylan White, you know, someone who was starting to get more recognised, more well known. We obviously Tony Bellew with the David Haye fights kind of did help Sky grow a good bit as well. It has to be said. But you kind of saw Frank Warren, you know, he was making moves, you know, and then all of a sudden we see these Frank Warren fighters sign, well, some of them anyway, like Carl Frampton, like Tyson Fury. They go and they start basing themselves in the States, signing these fight deals with Bob Arum. And then we see, like, especially in the case of Tyson Fury, it's just the Bob Arum Tyson Fury show. You know, we saw that with his WWE run. You know, there was no mention of Frank Warren. Frank Warren didn't even know. I done a video of it and I said, you know, Tyson Fury didn't tell Frank Warren about the WWE shows. You know, it was all Bob Arum, it was all Tyson Fury. You know, we see Tyson Fury and Bob Arum, you know, a lot more now than I think we ever saw him with Frank Warren. So it's a strange one. You know, obviously Frank Warren is still with Tyson Fury in terms of he's still his co-promoter, but realistically most of the work being done is by Top Rank. You know, same with Carl Frampton. You know, and, you know, inexplicably Frank Warren has lost Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders been with Frank Warren since he was a pro, since he turned pro first, you know. Went through the Box Nation days. He jumped ship and went over to Matchroom. You know, now we see Josh Warrington, you know, go and jump ship over to Matchroom. I remember, was it last year or it might have been 2018, where they had this table of BT Sport fighters, and it consisted of Tyson Fury, Carl Frampton, I think it had Daniel Dubois and Anthony Yarde on it, had Josh Warrington on it, Billy Joe Saunders, it might even have one or two others. And you look now and gone. You know, you have Liam Williams knocking around, who is a good fighter. You have Daniel Dubois, who they really are putting all their eggs in one basket, that Daniel Dubois beats Joe Joyce, because at least then Frank Warren has a means of a lifeguard with Daniel Dubois. Anthony Yarde, you know, depending on, you know, where he goes, who he fights, you know, maybe. But Queensberry are struggling, to say the least. Frank Warren is on tough times. You know, fighters going here, there, and Frank Warren came out, and I think it was a seconds out interview, and said the reason why he let Josh Warrington go is because he didn't want to put the Kid Galahad fight on. Well, Josh Warrington could still sell out, you know, the Leeds Arena, even if it was Kid Galahad. So I don't see where Frank Warren's going from there, like, unless he wants to put him on pay-per-view, in which case maybe a different story. But to me it's weird, it's strange. It's Frank Warren's really falling on hard times, it seems. And I go back to, you know, 2-3 years ago, 2017, the stable of fighters was growing, the quality of the shows was better. Now we just don't have that. Like, go back and look at Anthony Joshua versus Dylan White. Look at the undercard we had on that fight. You know, we had Chris Eubank Jr., he fought Spike on that. That was a good fight. Tony Bellew fighting that, I can't remember the guy's name, but it was for the European title. He's a good fighter, actually. He was in the World Boxing Super Series there last season in the cruiserweights. He fought Doricus. And, you know, Kevin Bizier, Derek Chisora, Luke Campbell, he lost that night. Probably missing maybe someone else, Kevin Mitchell. You know, that's when he started getting real punchy after that fight. I think that was his last fight, actually, as well. You know, that was a good undercard. You know, very good. In terms of, like, maybe the fights per se, you know, they weren't the most competitive fights in the world, you know. But still, you know, good names, you know, up and coming, because most of the fighters, I think all of them, apart from maybe say Chisora, were all up and coming. So, up and coming fighters who had potential. And, you know, obviously Tony Bellew, he wasn't necessarily up and coming, but the year before he was on pay-per-view against Nathan Cleverly. So that was a good undercard, you know, in the grand scheme of things it was. Frank Warren doesn't have anything close to that kind of depth in Queensberry Promotions. So if you look at this BT Sport pay-per-view that he's going to be doing with Daniel Dubois versus Joe Joyce, who the hell is he going to put in the undercard? Is he going to put Anthony Yarde on it? You know, that could do something, but, you know, who's Anthony Yarde going to fight? You know, is he going to fight anyone with a pulse, or is he going to fight another Travis Rivas? You know, is he going to put Nathan Gorman on the card? Nathan Gorman's already lost to Daniel Dubois. You know, I mean, what's he doing with himself? Okay, is he going to put, you know, Zelfa Barrett or Leon Woodstock on the card? I mean, neither of those guys are exactly, you know, they're definitely not household names, but they're not exactly great fighters. Is he going to put that Archie Sharp guy on the card? Probably not. These are not fighters that, you know, you look at them and you think, you know, this guy in a couple of years' time, he could be something. You know, you just don't look at that. And with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, when they done that AJ White card, you know, there was depth on the card. You know, as I said, they might not have been in the most competitive fights in the world, but it was still good. It was still good to watch. You know, there were guys who were up and coming. And look at even some of the guys who lost. You know, look at like someone like Spike, who wasn't even with Eddie Hearn. Look what he went on to do. He went on to get title fights against Well, it wasn't a title fight, but he went on to fight Jaime Munguia, fighting Canelo, won the cards, stuff like that. So even people who are brought in there as the away fighter, you know, have a bit more credibility, you know, than some of the fighters that, you know, Frank Warren has in the stable now. So yeah, it's tough times all around. And like I said, I made that video about nearly a month ago, saying that Warren had a big problem. At the time, I didn't know how big it would be, but right now it's gone beyond big. It's massive, absolutely massive. So, you know, and this is where I go back and I say Daniel Dubois should not, for whatever he wants to do, should not have signed a 5-year deal with Queensberry, because that could end in flames. That could go up in disaster, seriously. You know, that could end in absolute hell. Absolute hell. So, you know, yeah, there has been, but again, this isn't even a Frank Warren fighter, because Frank Warren at this minute in time has no world champions. You know, Zolani Tete lost, you know, and Zolani Tete could have had that unification fight with Inoue, you know, if he'd beaten Jean-Real Casimiro. So Tete's lost, Warrington's gone, Saunders is gone. I mean, Fury, if he beats Deontay Wilder, he'll have a title, but, you know, is he really a Queensberry fighter these days? I don't know. Frampton fighting Jamal Herring. Jamal Herring's going to beat the shit out of Carl Frampton. You know, I love Carl Frampton. You know, he's an Irish man, but he ain't beating Herring. Way too small. You know, Herring's going to beat the shit out of Carl Frampton. So, you know, yeah, it's tough times. Tough times. And they're saying, you know, Josh Warrington or Josh Taylor is going to be fighting on BT Sport. Yeah, he will be fighting on BT, but he's not a Frank Warren fighter. He's a top ranked fighter, and he's managed by MTK. You know, I think MTK will eventually take over Frank Warren on BT Sport, because the quality of their shows is very, very good. No, it's very good. So, you know, as I said, it's tough times for Frank Warren, and be interested to see can he get through this, because obviously I was only a kid in the early 90s and the early 2000s, but I wasn't watching boxing. But I don't know, was it as tough for him back then as it is now? I seriously doubt. Was it tough in the early BT or Box Nation days as it is now? I don't know. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Always interested to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think of the video. Let me know what you think of the points I raised. Like I said, AJ has a big problem will be the next video I do in this series, coming on Saturday, so stay tuned for that. As for now, I will talk to you after. Don't go to many black.